Hello, my name is Tony Lalakata, and for my Worldviews presentation, I'm going to be focusing on the decline in animal populations as well as habitats, specifically in the 21st century. Now, I see the decline in habitats and animal populations on our planet being a result of two major waves of events that occurred in our history. The first major one being the start of the Industrial Revolution. In the early 19th century, obviously there was a worldwide increase in human population, as well as the technological and industrial advancements. And what this did was it made gathering land, building land, and attaining resources more efficient with technological means. And as a result, animals and biomes alike suffered greatly, and this was the start of what would be many extinctions and future endangerments of species. And then I believe the next major wave was a 50-year period in the last century of the 20th century, being the hunting era. Starting in the 1920s, there weren't a lot of many laws regulating the hunting of any species, let alone endangered ones. And as a result, this caused a lot of tactics to be used by hunters, like mass hunting, not even gathering it for resources, just for sport, or simply black market trading, as we knew occurred in countries such as China, Russia, and a lot of East Asia. And this caused many species across multiple continents to become critically endangered by the year 1970. Now, how does this affect us today, almost 50 years later? Well, these two waves show us a reality that most of the ecological damage we have done from human activity is almost irreversible, at least within our lifetime of 70 to 80 years. For example, since 1970, more than half of the world's vertebrates have been either wiped out or critically endangered. And they were declining at an extreme rate starting approximately 50 years ago. And this, I believe, is even worse with freshwater habitats, with an over 80% decline in the past 50 years. Now, this not only affects both direct species and habitats such as the poles and animals such as the Indian crocodile, which rely on freshwater, but this will inadvertently affect areas in saltwater environments as well, with the rising sea levels from melting ice caps, such as the coral reefs disappearing due to temperature rises or falls, where the plants in coral cannot function and produce the pigment they need to survive, and they're the home to countless aquatic species. And in my opinion, the region of our Earth that was hit the most devastating in the past 50 years would be Central and South America, specifically the Amazon forest. Now, as we know recently, a lot of the forest was burning. There were forest fires, many different deforestation tactics used to improve agriculture in South America. But what this did was this may have killed species we have yet to find, because the Amazon being over a 7 million square mile mass of unexplored territory, we not only have further endangered species we know about, but we may be potentially ecologically destroying habitats and life we have not found yet. Now, this is what I believe to be the primary causes of habitat and animal loss in the world today. Firstly, as I mentioned before, the rise of modern agriculture. This is something that people see as a short-term win, but in the long term, this will hurt our CO2 emissions, as well as the oxygen produced by trees that we have in our forests and ranges throughout each continent of our planet, pretty much. And tactics such as irrigation and building with, and then such as gas-powered vehicles, these all affect the Earth either below the surface, with our irrigation destroying and tampering with Earth's erosion process, or the gas-powered vehicles destroying our ozone layer and exponentiating our CO2 emissions. And this is continued with tactics such as pollution in the aquatic environments as well. And like I said before, overhunting and black market operations, they will always be around because they're very hard to track and regulate. And then something that a lot of people do not speak about are diseases, such as certain strains of fungus viruses and strains of just different diseases that would hurt or harm a certain genetic breed of animals or a specific climate on the planet. And then with that, I lead into the most significant cause, which would be climate change, which is unfortunately irreversible and just a natural function of human history on this planet. Now, I wanted to focus on this specific case of Canada because it is a more remote and colder, harsher climate to us, but with many animals that inhabit there, they're starting to show up as endangered. Climate change is not the main culprit in this situation, it is mainly us, with fishing, farming, mass production and pollution, and as a result, more than 50 once populous Canadian species in the past century have now become critically endangered, some being several different species of turtles across both eastern and the Vancouver region of Canada, the Vancouver Island marmot, and black-footed ferrets, which are seen all across Canada, including the North Islands of Canada. Now, what this means is that our pollution we may be causing in our more densely populated regions of Earth are now starting to affect the remote regions as well. Everything has a butterfly effect, say, of change, whether it be positive or negative with how we handle our planet and the use of its resources. So what does this mean for both the short and long-term future of our planet? Firstly, this is something that not a lot of people talk about, but could be potentially disastrous, is the reduction of plant diversity. With the less plants being a thing on our planet as a result of deforestation, and other tactics used to expand land, pests and insects will have nowhere to inhabit and pollinate. And this will harm areas that we're constructing now for agriculture, like single crop locations. It will cause widespread famine with these insects because they will be forced to adjust to the climate adjustment that we made and caused ourselves. And like I said, this will lead to a reduced seed spreading. With our plants being in shorter supply, they will not be able to be dispersed with the fruits or vegetables they grow, and as a result, less food will be available to us. This will affect us undoubtedly in the future. And most importantly, climate disarray. Global deforestation, as I said before, will reduce the absorption of carbon dioxide in our environment, and this will obviously hinder future plant growth. And global pollution will be, the result of global pollution will be reduction or increase in ocean temperatures. And this will harm biomes such as the reefs near Australia, near Japan, and even animals in the farthest reaches, like the Marianas Trench. Now, lastly, I want to focus on how I personally believe we can capitalize on reversing the damage we've done in the past, specifically in the past 100 years. Now, what I believe that would make an immense impact is firstly utilizing sustainable resources. Now, what this means is we should not be focusing on depleting our fossil fuels for more efficient and convenient ways of life, such as automobiles and cars, or vehicles we use that are gas powered. As with Tesla being a new and emerging product and idea for the future, I believe that will be the first step for people to realize that the damage has been done, and we will need to contribute at least another century of nonstop preservation and conservation to bring back the habitats and animals we nearly destroyed. And next, I believe that providing more incentives for recycling is key. This will in turn make our Earth seem more renewable, and at the same time we will have a use for everything. And the more efficient we are, the more things such as what's next, contemporary laws will protect habitats and the biomes of our planet, and will prevent things such as dumping, overfishing, dynamite fishing, poaching, any damage that will be done to land or aquatic environments. And lastly, I believe the real future of our technology lies in genomics and terraformation. Now, as I believe, people often say things such as we have destroyed our planet to the point of no return, and that Mars might be our next bet to start over or terraform. But the thing is, if we have the ability to terraform Mars, we also have the ability to re-terraform Earth and make it to restore it to its former glory and have all habitats be habitable for any future species and potential species we ought to save and replenish. Thank you very much for listening to my Worldviews presentation.